Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we're entering day 23 of the ongoing war between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. And obviously, I have a new map on display that you may or may not agree with and or enjoy. But be that as it may, it does show relatively what is happening on the ground, and I think it's a fairly good representation, or at least it's something that you can see if you're watching from home on your either your cell phone or obviously your personal computer as well. But I've received a lot of feedback wanting to talk about Russian doctrine, and there is a line of thought, be it right or wrong, that believes that obviously Western media is skewed, and it is. It absolutely is, with a lot of information that is coming out that is simply not true. And I've talked about that before. And again, they're not talking about, meaning Western media, they're not talking about Russian doctrine in the context of this conflict and kind of what we are seeing on the ground. And a lot of that revolves around Russian or actually Soviet deep battle doctrine. And that was originally implemented and or created back almost 100 years ago in the 1920s and 30s. And it's really kind of designed. Well, I'll kind of read it to you exactly what deep battle doctrine encompassed maneuver by multiple Soviet Army front-size formations simultaneously. It was not meant to deliver a victory in a single operation. Instead, multiple operations, which might be conducted in parallel or successively, would induce a catastrophic failure in the enemy's defensive system. And if you're looking at what is happening on the ground, you are seeing these multiple army groups. Again, you have the army group or area of operations that is focused on Kiev. You have the supporting effort coming from the north of Sumy, again progressing towards Kiev. You have the Kharkov or Kharkiv area of operations. You have the Luhansk and Donetsk area of operations, which seem to be joining with the Crimea area of operations centered on southern Ukraine. Now, the problem with this deep battle doctrine that we may or may not be seeing from the Russian Federation. I think we're absolutely seeing elements of it, but at the same time, obviously that doctrine has evolved quite a bit from the post-Soviet collapse. And not only that, remember this deep battle doctrine was developed prior to the events of World War II. So a lot of what the Russians experienced in terms of dealing with the German Lightning War, Blitzkrieg, was then adapted into some of this Russian strategy, this deep battle doctrine, and we have seen that over the decades kind of evolve from the Soviet era into the Russian era, and again. We are seeing elements of it within the context of this conflict. In all likelihood, if this was a Western operation, meaning the United States, we would have probably seen a drive directly towards Kiev, a very focused, 100% all assets focused towards a decapitation of Kiev. And now we're not really seeing that from the Russians. Again, you have multiple areas of operations really kind of designed, if in fact we are looking at deep battle doctrine, designed to cause this catastrophic failure within the Ukraine armed forces. Now, here's the problem with this, and it's a pretty big problem, which I believe we could see this conflict expand if in fact the Russians are going to use this deep battle doctrine. And it's very difficult on the Russians right now because they can't fully employ the deep battle doctrine. And the reason is because the battle space actually goes beyond the borders of Ukraine. So let me try to explain. The Ukrainians are actively being supplied by the West. You're seeing arms shipments, you're seeing food, you're seeing a host of supplies coming in across both the Polish and Romanian borders, and quite possibly the borders of Slovakia as well. Hungary, unsure of at this point, but quite possibly, as they're all members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. You're also seeing active participation in terms of the introduction of foreign fighters, be it coming from the Baltics, Poland, the United Kingdom, the United States, what have you. That is in fact happening on the ground. So you have all these nation states in the West that are directly supporting Ukraine, but as of yet, the Russians have not pushed the battle space into those countries. Poland, for example, we know that U.S. intelligence aircraft, long-range early warning aircraft, are operating very close to the Ukrainian border, the shared Ukrainian-Polish border, giving intelligence information directly to the Ukrainians. At the same time, again, just talking about the weapons and equipment that are coming across the border from Poland. If this was true deep battle doctrine, they would have to come to the conclusion that Poland is acting as an aggressor state and is within the scope of that battle space, meaning they are directly supplying the Ukrainians with military supplies that keeps the conflict going. So in reality, if this again was this deep battle doctrine, we would have seen the conflict expand into the battle space of Poland, because again, Poland is actively supporting the Ukrainian military. And unfortunately for the Russians, they've kind of drawn a red line right now, and the Russian battlefield commanders really have to focus on military operations in Ukraine. But the supply lines for the Ukrainians, again, that deep battle doctrine would attack all those supply lines and again look to cripple whatever nation state the Russians or the Soviets were attempting to engage in battle and fight in the fight. And unfortunately for the Russians, in terms of utilizing this deep battle doctrine, or whatever doctrine they're calling this, they are restricted in some of their activities that would thereby limit the capacity of Ukraine to conduct continued operations. Because again, they're being fully supplied and continuing to be fully supplied by a host of nation states in terms of both military supplies and again non-military supplies designed to kind of keep the war effort going for the Ukrainians. So it's very difficult to say that true deep battle doctrine has been instituted as of yet, because again, we still have these open supply lines coming from Poland, coming from Romania. I hope that makes sense. But yes, in accordance with this deep battle doctrine, we are seeing multiple army groups attacking on multiple fronts, with the entire front being the Ukrainian front at this time. Now, eventually, could we see that expand into the Baltics at some point? Well, possibly. Again, I've talked about this often, that right now the gravitational pull for this conflict is one that is quite possibly going to pull other nation states into this fight. And unfortunately for Russia right now, they're kind of fighting with one hand tied behind their back in terms of fighting the Ukrainians, but at the same time being fully supplied and supported by Poland. Now, obviously, in other states as well. Now, obviously, the Russians are very well aware that if they attack Poland, or they attack supply nodes in Polish territory, that could quite possibly escalate the conflict, or it would escalate the conflict into a realm that the Russians aren't ready to go into as of yet. But at the same time, we continue to hear about this nuclear posture escalation by the Russians, and I think they are making contingency plans for the day they may have to actively engage members of NATO. And I think they will try, meaning the Russians will try to slowly break down NATO. And I think one key element of that possibility, again, is the Baltic states to the north. And my opinion, and be it right or wrong, I do believe that if they made a move into those Baltic states, that we wouldn't see the North Atlantic Treaty Organization come to their aid. That's all we have for now. We'll have more very, very soon. Have a good day, everybody.